Hi, this is Kathy from MummyTravels and I'm out in the Gambia. I promised in my other vlog to talk a little bit about whether and why you should come here with kids. To start with, there are so many reasons that people would love to come here. The beach, getting to see some African life, the wildlife, the history, the smallest country in mainland Africa, and there's masses to see here. I've had just over 3 days and barely begun. Whether to come with kids though, now that is a question that's a little bit harder to answer, I think, than some other destinations, and here's why. Firstly, the decision has to come down to your travelling style. With my 5-year-old, in the 5 years of her travels, we've been to Cambodia, we've been to Burma, we've been to the Cape Verde Islands, so not too far from where I am now, and US, Europe, and so on. So she's had quite a variety of experiences. At 5, I've got to say, I might think twice about coming to the Gambia with her just yet, but I would definitely keep it on the list for when she's older. The main thing that's probably making me wonder a little bit at the moment is the fact that you are advised, as well as the fairly standard vaccinations that you get from most places like hepatitis A and typhoid, you're advised to get the yellow fever vaccination. Now, I had that done years ago. Thankfully, it lasts a lifetime. I was very happy to discover that. I remember it as not being the nicest travel vaccination to have those. So, as I say, it's one I would be tempted to put off until she's a bit older than 5. Also, you do have to take malaria tablets here. Again, she took them while we were in Burma, so it is certainly doable. I've got to say, it wasn't the most fun trying to get her to take malaria tablets. So again, that's one I'd happily postpone a few years until she's maybe old enough not to need bribing to take each one. So the first things that are going to tempt families here, the beach, the sun. This is a winter sun destination. It's gloriously sunny in December. You are guaranteed sunshine. If you want to get away, be by the beach. This is obviously an amazing place to come. And there are lots of beaches as well. I would say most of the hotels are clustered on one part of the Atlantic coast. I would say try and stay around maybe Cape Point or Kotu rather than Kololi. The beach has started to erode a bit there. They are working on restoring that though. Another thing that I think would work really nicely with older kids is seeing the wildlife. Now, there is plenty for younger ones as well. I've seen crocodiles, which I know my daughter would be equally enthralled and terrified by just getting to see them that close up. If you head further inland along the river, you can see hippos and more wild crocodiles, and there's also a chimpanzee rehabilitation centre. Down the coast from where I'm staying, there's also a place where you can see monkeys, and again, I know that would go down a total storm with my daughter. A lot of what there is, you can go canoeing out into the mangroves and see some of the birds there, or walking in the forest. I went to Makasutu to do both there, and that's lovely, but again, I think slightly better for older kids. I know my daughter's attention wanders slightly on a boat ride, and if you want to see anything, you've got to be quiet. So again, maybe not ideal with a chattery 5-year-old. One of the other big tours that a lot of people do while they're here is the Roots tour. If you've read the book or seen the series or even just heard about it, you'll know a little bit. It follows the story of a man in West Africa, in the Gambia specifically, sold into slavery, and his descendants in the US, one of whom traced, Alex Haley, the author, traced his history and wrote the book. Now, while you're here, you can see some of the specific sites. You can go to Jafure, which was Kunta Kinte's home village, the central character. You can see one of the islands where people were held before being shipped to the Caribbean and the Americas. You can also, there's a museum which tells a little bit more detail about the slave trade and has artifacts and so on. It's a very moving experience to actually see the places. For teens perhaps who are starting to understand a little bit more about the darker chapters of history, this is an amazing way to actually to bring it a little bit more to life, to start to put some of this into context. Again, not really one for younger kids. It's either too dark, or it's going to go over their heads, or they're not going to have perhaps quite the right attitude to some of the places that you'll see. Another thing to bear in mind is the roads here. And I would probably say if you can get places by boat, that's not a bad plan. There are tarmac roads, it's not like there aren't any, but they tend to be limited between sort of the bigger towns and so on, and almost anywhere you go you will have to get off road. It's really not the worst roads that I've been on, depending what you're in. I was in a sort of 4x4 yesterday. It's bumpy, but you can manage. Again, older kids will have no problems with that. Littler ones, not a chance. You don't want to be going over those bumps with that. With a 5-year-old, not saying my daughter couldn't manage, I know she'd be fine, but she'd be complaining every bump of the way. Kind of goes without saying that seatbelts aren't going to be in most of the cars that you're in. Child seats and so on, it's just absolutely not going to happen. I loved it here. I had such a great time in 3 days. I would love to come back. I would love to come back with my daughter, but this one I think is one that I'm going to put on the list for when she's a bit older. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more of my tips, more of my travel videos, you can subscribe, give it a like if you liked it, and plenty more to watch.